I am the greatest, the greatest, the greatest, the greatest.
What up, though, everyone? Welcome to the GOAT Debate Podcast, the podcast where we settle once and for all who is truly the greatest of all time, or at least we like to think we do. Meech Stokes here with you tonight. Hope you guys are having a great evening. Hope everybody is staying safe and healthy during this quarantine time. I'm joined each and every episode by my main man, my co-host here, Tremendos GOAT himself, Mr. Darius Brown. Darius, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. We're back in the podcast world, so it's been a little bit of a layoff, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because one, I have some great takes, and I'm questioning a couple of yours. So
of course.
I think you went a little predictable.
All right. Well, that's the beauty of the GOAT Debate Podcast. We're going to settle some of these differences here. Each and every episode, we'll be debating a different topic to determine who truly is the GOAT, who truly is the greatest of all time, taking a composite, if you will, of my list, Darius's list, and then the list of our great listeners out there who we have dubbed the Tribe. So it's going to be an interesting night tonight for this particular episode, as we are going to be debating the best sports movies. Darius, before we get into it all, man, do you want to break down how we, kind of came up with the whole composite, how we came up with the rankings for tonight's topic?
Yes. So it's pretty simple. So we take our listeners from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we polled them. And as you mentioned, we called them the Tribe, like a tribe of goats, because we are talking about the GOAT.
But who knew that a group of goats were called a tribe? I never knew that.
Listen, I would like to say I knew that, but I had to look it up.
The more you know, right?
A group of goats. So a tribe is what you call a group of goats. So our tribe, we call on our tribe, and we take their top picks, their top five. We add it with my top five and your top five, divided by 3, basically, and that's how you get the consensus, the GOAT for
the composite. I've been watching a lot of college football, so they do a lot of composite rankings when they combine all the rankings. So that's how we come up with it. We kind of assign a little point system too, so that we can truly have a list. So what we're going to do, we have a top 5 before we actually discuss and debate the GOAT. As we go through it all, we may agree on some, and as you've already heard from Darius, we may disagree on some. The Tribe, those of you that are out there listening, you may or may not agree with some of the movies that make the list, but that's the beauty of the GOAT Debate Podcast. And of course, you can air your grievances with us on social media. We're pretty much on every platform: IG, Twitter, Facebook. If you search the GOAT Debate, I think our handle on Twitter and Instagram is GOAT_debate. And then you can also even email us show ideas, things of that nature, at goatdebate@gmail.com. So just figured we'd throw out the little plug there. So Darius, let's get started. And let's start with a segment that I'm going to dub First Two Out. So we have our top 5 that we're going to discuss here momentarily. But we have 2 movies that didn't quite make the list, that were very close and deserve some honorable mention recognition, if you will. So, best sports movies. The 2 movies that did not quite make our top 5 were The Sandlot and Happy Gilmore. So let's talk a little bit about those 2 movies.
Man, I listen. I'm upset right now with what's the magic word that you gave this? The consensus, the conglomerate, the confecta,
Composite.
the composite. Yes, the composite. I'm a little upset with the composite because Happy Gilmore was my third pick overall. Happy Gilmore. Let me just say, just tap it in. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo. Come on. That's classic. Bob Barker. Come on. Bob Barker throwing blows on Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
That alone deserves a top 5. But, you know, the voters, you know, they spoken, and it is just outside the top 5.
Yeah, for sure. Classic scenes in Happy Gilmore for sure. Obviously, the Bob Barker fight scene with Adam Sandler's character definitely was one that, you know, that's memorable and sticks out. And listen, Adam Sandler had a run for a minute where he was making some great movies. Maybe not so much, you know, now, but Happy Gilmore he was still, I don't know, was he still doing SNL when he made Happy Gilmore? Was he still a SNL cast member, or had he left SNL at that point?
I don't know. I'm gonna go on a limb and say he left.
He was gone. Yeah. But great movie nonetheless. Not quite in our top 5. It made your list. It did not make my list. It did not make the list of the tribe. Therefore, but earned enough points from where you ranked it to just be outside of that top 5. Now, a movie that kind of flew off of my radar when I first was thinking of my list of what movies, you know, are in the top 5 for best sports movies. A movie that kind of flew off the radar for me that I didn't even think of, that is a solid movie, but didn't quite make my list. And hey, guys, we're all quarantined, as you can hear. We got families, we got kids, you know, all running around doing their thing. But in any event, a movie that kind of flew under the radar for me that many people liked. I liked it, but not quite top 5 or GOAT or best movie of all time for me, was The Sandlot. Baseball movie, right? Came out back in 1993. The movie is actually set in the 60s. You know, a group of kids, you know, playing baseball on the Sandlot, if you will. It was a good movie. Not my cup of tea in terms of being like one of the best sports movies of all time. But the tribe really, our listeners and people that we polled really liked The Sandlot. What were your thoughts on that movie?
Man, The Sandlot brought back a lot of great memories as a child. I remember the first time I watched that. It was, you know, I was having like a tooth pulled or something like that. So mom took me to get some ice cream and do you remember these things called video stores? Do you remember those things?
Video stores?
Yeah, you remember those little buildings that you'd walk in and they just had rows and rows of VHS tapes, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
You like video stores? I'm like, what? Oh, okay. So yeah, so like a Blockbuster video. Sure, of course. I actually, back in the day, I used to work for they actually still have them here in Michigan, Family Video, which is a video store, and they still are in operation. I actually used to work for them back in the day.
Are y'all aware it's 2020?
And people though, I mean, hey man, listen, you know, people maybe still rent movies and things of that nature. I don't know. I mean, obviously
they do, but digitally.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. But hey, you're right. But yeah.
Yeah, so I got that VHS. It's a tape for those young listeners, and put it in the VCR as I was laid up on the couch on painkillers. And oh my gosh, it was, if you know, I used to go and play baseball with my friends in the backyard. So, you know, definitely can rate one of the classic scenes is a ball getting hit over the neighbor's fence and everybody was afraid of that neighbor. usually that happens. The ball is just gone. So yeah, I loved The Sandlot, and oddly enough, both The Sandlot and Happy Gilmore share a 61% Rotten Tomato rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So they polled exactly the same for audiences. Well, those are the critics version. The critics polled them the same.
So both well-liked movies, just not quite good enough to make the GOAT composite list. So shout out to Happy Gilmore, shout out to The Sandlot. Both great movies. Didn't quite make it, but deserved a little recognition. And in this segment, we like to call first two out. But Darius, let's go ahead now, man, and let's get into the meat and potatoes of of the episode, if you will. Our top 5 best sports movies of all time, voted on by, again, a combination of myself, you, and our listeners out there that we have dubbed the Tribe. So here we go. Let's go ahead and start with number 5. This movie, great movie, man. A lot of star power in the movie. Probably not when it initially came out, but people that have gone on to become movie stars. A baseball movie, a movie centered around a franchise known as the Cleveland Indians. We're talking Charlie Sheen. We're talking Wesley Snipes. We're talking the Allstate dude is even in this movie. If you remember, the dude from the Allstate commercials is in this movie. We're talking about Major League, coming in at number 5 on our greatest sports movies of all time list. Give me a little bit of your thoughts on Major League, if you believe it deserves to be on the list, because it does. I know you're probably going to say otherwise, but it definitely deserves to be on the list. One of my favorites, great movie, Major League.
Yeah, Major League is an awesome movie. There was a lot of comedy, action in there. We got Wesley Snipes up in there. At one of the places I used to work there, a magical place, if you will. We used to have.
You can't name it.
Disney. I worked at Disney. I don't know. So at Disney, we used to have these big launches that were, real big, and with it, we actually had someone purchase the I don't know, the voodoo. I forget his name now. The guy who was somebody throw me a lifeline, but he had his own shrine, and we had that same shrine, a little small miniature version for when we would do these big launches to make sure they go off well. So we paid tribute to Major League. Just a fantastic movie, very fun movie. And it was well received by the critics, an 83% Rotten Tomatoes score. I wish I could say the same about the sequels that it spawned, but let's just say you won't see Major League 2, which got a 5% Rotten Tomatoes score, versus the 83 that the first one got. You won't see that the second one on those.
Yeah, you rarely. Well, I mean, not in all cases, but a lot of times it's very, very hard to duplicate the success of the original in the sequel. Major League grossed like 132 mil. Did great numbers. Are you referring to the character? Are you referring to Pedro Serrano? Was that the character?
Sir.
So Pedro Serrano was played by Dennis Haysbert, who is probably known today as the guy from the Allstate commercials. If you got not Mayhem, but the black dude from the Allstate commercials, that's Dennis Haysbert. He's been in a ton of other movies, Waiting to Exhale, other films like that. But he played Pedro Serrano in Major League, and he was the guy who had like the he was kind of the voodoo guy with the shrine and all of that stuff. So yeah, of course. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's Jobu is the little voodoo doll that they had for it.
Oh, that was his name.
Jobu.
Okay. All right. And of course, breakout movie for a guy like Charlie Sheen, who would go on to do a number of things in film and television. And of course, like you said, Wesley Snipes was in it. Very popular broadcaster Bob Uecker was in it. He was actually hilarious in that movie. So you had a lot of people who would go on. Rene Russo was in it. Corbin Burnson. You had a lot of people who would go on to have great careers in film and in television. Going forward. So Major League, man, one of my favorites. So what's interesting, Darius, I'm going to call you out here as this movie comes in at number 5 on our composite list here. This movie made my personal list. The Tribe, those great listeners of ours out there, the movie made their list. It actually came in at number 4 on their list. Came in at number 5 on mine, and then thus 5 in the composite. But it didn't make your list, sir. You're talking very, very well about it right now, but that movie was not on your list, sir. Would you care to explain yourself?
I mean, there's so many great movies, and I actually watched this recently. I watched first and second one for sure. So I was reminded how great the first one is, but as great as it is, it ain't the GOAT.
So. Okay, and I agree with you there. It's not the GOAT, but it's definitely a top tier sports movie. All right,
I gave it top 10. It's in my top 10, but we're talking top 5s.
Well, it's in your top 10, but it's in the top 5 here tonight.
True.
On the GOAT debate. So. Let's go to number 4. Number 4. Now, this is one of your favorites here. Coming in at number 4, I'm personally shocked that this movie made the list. Listen, good movie. Okay, I will say it was a great movie. Critically acclaimed movie. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the star of this movie got an Academy Award nomination or a Golden Globe nomination. I could be wrong there, but this was a 2008 film about the world of not professional, but probably more independent wrestling. We're talking about none other than The Wrestler, starring Mickey Rourke, who was great in the movie. 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That is that's amazing. That's good. That's better than Major League. However, I liked Major League better. But The Wrestler was a good movie. Major League was probably more of a much lighter, more comedy. Obviously, The Wrestler was more of a drama, very, very heavy stuff in the movies. Mickey Rourke kind of navigating through his life in the world of wrestling. But I'll let you speak on it because I know this movie made your personal list and is one of your favorites.
Yeah, when it came down to choosing movies, it was like I said, it was very difficult because there are a lot of great sports movies, but if you take a look at the top 15 grossing movies, there's not a lot of great movies that are they're also critically acclaimed. As you see, it's 98% Rotten Tomatoes. It scores the highest among all sports movies by critics. All of them even our GOAT, it did not receive. That was a near perfect percent, 98%. That's amazing. You mentioned earlier that we got 2 Oscar nominees out of there. We got Mickey Rourke for Best Actor, Marissa Tomei.
I forgot Marissa Tomei was in that. Yeah.
She was. I mean, and so in 2009, both of them received it. And let's not forget, Mickey Rourke wasn't too far from obscurity when this movie came out. He did one other big movie at the time that kind of pulled him up. I'm trying to.
I know after that he got Iron Man 2. He was the villain in Iron Man 2, but that came after The Wrestler.
Oh, Sin City. That was City was his coming off, return, and that that did well. And then this movie put him back on the mat. He did well with Sin City, but this was another level. Now he may have gone and fallen off, one movie after this. He did Iron Man, and then we'd never heard from him ever again. Iron Man 2.
You know what though? I think he did some of the Expendables movies. He was in one of them. He was in one of them. 5,000
other people, but we talking about the GOAT sports movie, and I put this number 2 because he was so realistic. He tapped in because this is a movie about a wrestler who had fame and fortune and then just dropped off, which, if you know, wrestling happens all the time. And he became a nobody, but was still trying to be somebody, and it was just capturing that raw emotion that he could tap into because he himself had fallen off. So if you have not seen The Wrestler because maybe you don't like professional wrestling, you don't like that WWE stuff, put those feelings aside because this is a very good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie for sure, no doubt. And obviously, the Oscar nominations and all of that stuff, speaks to the how great the movie is. And you're right. Even if you're not a fan of professional wrestling or WWE or whatever, it just has a really good story that would make the movie worth seeing. And I saw it one time. See, listen, for me, for a movie to make my list, right, it has to be something. It has to be one of those movies that when it comes on like TNT or TBS or USA or whatever, I'm gonna stop and watch it. No matter how many times I've seen it, I'm gonna stop and watch that movie. The Wrestler is not that movie for me. Doesn't take away obviously from the greatness of the movie, but it's not that movie for me. But a good movie and critically acclaimed. So The Wrestler comes in at number 4 on the GOAT composite list. It was very high on Mr. Darius Brown's list. He loved it, but it comes in at number 4. And now we're going to move on to number 3. Now we're getting to, our top 3 movies. Coming in at number 3, another critically acclaimed movie, another movie that did big numbers in the box office, grossed $87 million. Got a ton of nominations for the actors and actresses involved in the movie. One of Will Smith's great performances, breakout performances. We're talking about Ali, the biopic for obviously one of the greatest, if not the greatest athlete of all time, Muhammad Ali. Ali coming in at number 3. Again, another one of Darius's personal favorites. Another great movie. Ton of nominations for Will Smith. Received a Best Oscar nomination, Best Actor nomination for this movie. Jon Voight received a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this movie. There was a number of other, kind of more lower tier awards like Black Reel Awards and things of that nature that they were nominated for. Golden Globe Awards, MTV Music Awards, Movie Awards. So Ali, critically acclaimed. Again, I'm going to give you the floor on this one. Another one of your personal favorites, Ali.
Yeah, you mentioned the awards. Now, I remember seeing this movie with a group of friends, and it was mixed coming out of the theater. To be honest, not everybody was in love with this movie, and it got 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that will reflect it, but it was one Will Smith's performance. He was without a shadow of a doubt. I won't say robbed. I don't think that necessarily is the correct word, because he went up probably against Russell Crowe's best performance of his life as well in Gladiator. So that took.
Was it Gladiator or was it 300?
Pretty sure it was Gladiator.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah. So
was Russell Crowe not in 300?
now we gotta pause.
Now you gotta look it up. Now you gotta find out.
We gotta look it up. Was it Russell Crowe 300?
No. Okay, I'm wrong. You're right. Russell Crowe was in Gladiator. Gerard Butler was in 300.
Yes.
They're the same dude, man. They
they are the same dude.
They're the same dude, though.
Yeah. So, to me, get back to Will. I think he outacted Russell Crowe, because you could not tell me that was not Muhammad Ali. The accent was on point. His movements in the ring was on point. It was just a tremendous performance, backed up by I think you said someone else got the nom. Well, what about Jamie Foxx in that movie? He was
I was gonna say, man. Yeah, Jamie Foxx. Played a great. He did really well in that movie. They both, you hate to say it, but all the Black Movie Awards, like the NAACP Movie Awards.
Right.
Will won Best Actor, Jamie won Best Supporting Actor. Mario Van Peebles was also in that movie. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for an NAACP award, but he didn't win. And Jada was in it too. Will's wife, she was in it. She played one of Muhammad Ali's wives in the movie.
One of his many wives.
Got a Best Supporting Actress nod at the NAACP Image Award. So there were a lot of, it won the ESPY that whatever year it came out, which was 2001. Wow, that movie came out in 2001. Okay. So it won the ESPY Award for Best Sports Movie that year. So I'm a lot. John Voight actually did win Best Supporting Actor at the Chicago Film Critics Awards. So so it was a critically acclaimed film. Lots of nominations, lots of wins in various awards. Obviously, the Oscars are the big one. And they didn't quite get that, but they did get the nomination. And, a lot of times just being Oscar nominated is, in a lot of cases, recognition enough in itself. So, yeah, so definitely, again, one of those movies for me, though, for it to make my personal list. Obviously, it's listed here in our episode tonight. But for it to make my personal list, it just has to be one of those movies that I'm going to want to see again and again and again. And yes, Muhammad Ali is great. He is the greatest. Will Smith killed the role, like you said. The accent, the mannerisms, all of that, he had it down to a T. Just not one of my personal favorites. And that's okay, right?
I guess so.
or am I wrong? I mean, you're wrong. Go ahead and say it.
No, it's good. It just seems what hurts it's well over 2 hours, close to 3, I believe. So it's kind of long, which to tell his magnificent story, it had to be, I think. Yeah. But it's one that kind of drags on. So I think that hurts its rewatchability. So I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours. So, it's a long movie. It's a long movie. And it's not like it's a Marvel film or something where it's going to be a lot of action that keeps you,
right,
on the edge of your seat. So still a great movie nonetheless. Shout out to Ali. Obviously, rest in peace to the great Muhammad Ali. Excellent movie. And now, Darius, on to number 2.
Yes.
Number 2 on the greatest sports movies of all time. Darius, we have a first right now. We have a first. This is the first unanimous selection on our GOAT composite list. That means that it made my list, it made your list, and it made the list of our listeners, those that we polled, the tribe. This movie is one of my all-time favorites. Movie came out in 2000, grossed over $136 million at the box office. It is a film. Actually, I should have known this, but I have Disney Plus and discovered, this was a Walt Disney film. This is a film that was produced by Walt Disney. One of my favorite roles by Denzel Washington, who has, come on, list them. How many great roles has Denzel Washington played in his life? Like, every movie he's in, he kills. But this one, this movie is based on a true story, right? Movie's based on a true story about a real life football coach, Herman Boone, who coached at T.C. Williams High School in Alexandria, Virginia. Movie is set in the segregated South, and we're talking about Remember the Titans. Number 2 on our greatest sports movies of all time GOAT list. I could talk on and on about this movie because it's one of my favorites. So many, like, there's a line in the movie. I don't know if you remember the big offensive lineman and Denzel's character, I'm sorry, my man from The Office. I'm not The Office. My man from Scrubs. I've said The Office. My man from Scrubs. I
know where you're going
right now. Donald Faison. He plays Petey in the movie, and then "you killing me, Petey" line. Like, I say that, I say that all the time to people. Like, "you killing me, Petey."
How many feet are in a mile?
Right. John Brown hind parts. It's so many lines from that movie, man, that stick out. And that's one of those, like I said, when that movie comes on, if I'm chilling watching TV, no matter how many times it comes on, I can watch that one over and over again.
Man, you touched my soul. That was, to be honest, that was my 5th pick. It could have been anywhere on that list. It could have been number 1. That's how strongly I feel about this movie. One, because of the race relations, right? I'm biracial. My mom's white. My dad's black. So the tensions between the two races, that strikes a chord for me personally. And then there's the humor. The music is fantastic.
Yeah.
Ain't No Mountain High Enough is amazing in that movie. You mentioned the quote already. How many feet in a mile? 5,280 feet. You pick this ball up and you run every one of them. You're killing me, PD. Yes.
How strong? I forgot the preamble to the "you killing me, PD."
Yes. Oh, yes. Denzel, aka Coach Boone, lit him up. He let him know.
Yeah,
you need to run a mile, not even just run a mile. You run every foot in that mile, all 5,280 feet in that bad boy.
Yeah.
Oh man, and the drama. I mean, the drama, Stokes. I mean, when my man said, "Attitude reflects leadership," Captain. Oh, I could quote it all day. It's so good.
You got all the lines. Yeah.
Oh man, how strong? Too strong. Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's a great movie, man. It's a great movie, and some great outside of Denzel Washington. You had some great acting in that movie. Will Patton, who plays Coach Yost, he did a great job, and just the tension with that. His character being the former coach who has to kind of step back and be the D coordinator because the school wants to reflect this image of the schools are forced to integrate. So
right.
They bring on Coach Boone to be the coach, and that tension there that exists between the two of them, and them ultimately forging a friendship and doing all of that at the end. That's great. Yost's daughter is hilarious, right? Because she's like this. She's a young lady, but she's like a football savant. She knows her stuff. She's going all in. She knows her stuff. She's going all in, and she's very, very knowledgeable about football. Gary Bertier is one of my favorite characters in the movie, and then Wood Harris plays Julius Campbell, and then just that dynamic of seeing a white player and a black player forge this friendship. The scene where after they win the championship, Bertier gets into the car accident. He's ultimately paralyzed, and Wood Harris's acting, his emotions when he sees his friend in that condition. Man, it's a great movie, man. It's great. I could talk about it all night.
And you skipped over that little girl, Cheryl Yost, the coach's daughter, who knew every play at the tender age of like 6 or 7. That was played by none other than Hayden Panettiere.
Was that
Heroes? Yes, it was from Heroes.
Wow.
Yes. See, now married to Klitschko, I believe, right?
Boxer. Yeah. I think so. At least last I checked. Yeah. But yeah. Wow.
Yeah, last time she emailed me, she was.
I didn't realize that.
And the girlfriend of Jerry Bertier's was Kate Bosworth. So lineup.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, Ryan Gosling was in the movie. Obviously, he goes on to become a big movie star. Wood Harris is in the movie. He goes on to do like great stuff like The Wire, which is one of the all-time, or I don't know. The Wire wasn't before this movie. The Wire had to be after this, right?
The Wire.
So. Yeah, I think The Wire.
The Wire ended in 2008. Remember, the Titans came out in 2000.
In 2000, yeah. So he would go on. I mean, The Wire is, that might be a future episode. The greatest, dramas or television shows of all time. That's when we'll probably be included in that discussion. I have a feeling, but he goes on to play one of the main characters on The Wire, which is an excellent show. And so it's always cool when we can go back and reflect on these movies and kind of see people who had like breakout roles. I mean, because like when you think about Major League, where Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes and some of those guys, even though Wesley Snipes had been in some other things and, kind of just starting out. And then like we're talking about Remember the Titans now, and Ryan Gosling and Kate Bosworth and, them kind of all seeing them, when they first kind of got their start, and even forgetting at times that they were in some of these great movies. So, man, Remember the Titans is definitely an all-time great sports movie. And again, our only unanimous choice on the list of all of the 5 movies that we're discussing tonight is the only one that was unanimously selected by the 3 parties, if you will, that make up this composite vote. So before we get into number 1, because we're almost there. It's almost that time to talk about the GOAT. We should once again thank everybody for listening to the GOAT Debate podcast. We certainly appreciate it. Again, we're all quarantined right now, so we hope everybody's staying safe, everybody's staying healthy, and all of that good stuff. But Darius, before we talk about the GOAT, because there can only be one, with any great list, there are always snubs.
Yep.
With any great list, there are always snubs. So before we talk about what sports movie is truly the GOAT, give me one of your snubs. Give me a sports movie that didn't make any list, or maybe made your personal list, but didn't make the composite list, wasn't one of the first two out. Give me something, Darius. What is a sports movie that maybe we missed and is getting snubbed, not getting its justice?
Okay, there's a, like you said, the race was tight. There was a lot of great sports movies, but one that I think didn't get its due because it was probably let's see where it is, 1, 2, 3, fourth on the all-time earnings list at the box office. 83% has an Oscar for best supporting actor in this film. You looking confused? You don't know what it is, but you know what this movie is. Because when I say these simple words, you'll know which movie got snubbed. And when I say, I think it is, I might be getting this wrong. Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money. Come on, Jerry Maguire's not on the list. Look, it's got comedy. It's got the romance. Like I mentioned, it was a top earner, Tom Cruise. It's got Tom Cruise and what? And Cuba Gooding. Come on. How do you give that a thumbs down?
Nah, man.
Jerry Maguire, that is a rewatchable film too.
Yeah, is it? Is it rewatchable?
It's definitely
rewatchable. I don't know, man.
Ooh, come on.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not. You truly believe that Jerry Maguire is a movie that didn't make this list that should have been on this list?
Absolutely. It was good.
What based on what? Based on the Oscar nominations and wins and all
based
that?
on all, forget all the numbers, all the money it made, the great ratings it got, the Oscar nominations, forget all that. It is just a fun movie to watch. Listen, I like the story behind the story. All right, a guy who was winning in life. He's a sports agent at a top firm, doing well, and all of a sudden, through a disagreement, he has to leave. He has to pick up on his own, and he has to build a company from scratch. Listen, I try to do this at least once a year. I don't leave the company, but I'm always trying to build something on my own so I can, because I have faith in myself. And I can relate to that. And it's just amazing. In a story, he gets the girl, he gets the kid, He gets the money. Amazing film.
So the movie inspires you.
It does.
Is that what you're saying? The movie inspires you. Okay, all right.
It's very
I can respect that.
I mean, clearly, I guess it doesn't inspire you since you don't think it's a snub whatsoever. You think it's a dud, not a stud.
I don't. You said it's not. You said it's not a stud. It's not a stud. It's not a snub. It's not any of those things. Any of those S words. I can think of an S word that it is. But
all right, hater, give me your snub. Give me your snub.
Okay. Before I give you mine, I want to give you the Tribe snub, because there's a movie that made their list that did not get any of the recognition here tonight in terms of making our composite list. But this movie was also critically acclaimed, an Oliver Stone film. Man, a who's who of actors. Wow, this movie came out in 1999, which I can't believe it's been that long since this movie came out. But listen, when I run down the actors and actresses in this movie, Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, James Woods. It was the breakout role for a guy by the name of Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J, Charlton Heston, and Margaret. I'm talking about Any Given Sunday. Any Given Sunday, listen. According to the tribe actually rated this as their number 4 greatest sports movie of all time. So this was number 4 on their list. Wasn't quite good enough to make the composite, but it good enough to be considered a snub for them. Any Given Sunday was a good movie, man. I personally liked it. Similar to Ali, though, where you talked about the length of the movie. This movie, at least with Ali was a biopic. So you could kind of understand a movie being 2.5 hours that's about somebody's life. It's kind of a biopic. How do you encompass someone's entire life into a 2.5 hour film? You do the best you can. This movie was 2 hours and 37 minutes. It was long, man. This movie was long. It told the story. Oh man, Lawrence Taylor was in this movie, and he actually acted very well in this movie. I mean, he kind of played himself. I mean, if anybody knows Lawrence Taylor, he had some problems with drugs as a professional football player, and he kind of played that role in the movie. Maybe he played the role too well. Maybe that's the problem. But it was a great movie, man. Great acting across the board. Like I said, I don't know that Jamie Foxx had been in a movie prior to Any Given Sunday. Obviously, he had, some recognition from In Living Color and the Jamie Foxx Show. By this time, I'm sure the Jamie Foxx Show was out. So, a breakout role for him as Steamin' Willie Beeman. They keep the ladies screaming. He had like the music video, and it's it's a cool story because he's the third string quarterback who ultimately becomes the starter. He becomes a star, kind of lets that stardom, go to his head, and so there's a lot of parallels in the movie to like real life athletics, and so that makes it really good. It earned about $100 million worldwide in the box office. So it was solid in that regard. And, Oliver Stone is known for making great movies, and Any Given Sunday was a great one. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was definitely a good movie. And this, I believe, is, I'm looking at Jamie's 7th film, but it was, he starred in one prior to that I never saw, Held Up, with Nia Long. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I've never even heard of it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
It was, you would go see it because it's like, hey, we go support black film.
No, you
but
did.
Any Given Sunday was kind of the.
It made $4 million on an $8 million.
I saw Held Up.
That's why I
saw Held Up.
Nobody else saw it either. $4 million.
It wasn't good.
$8 million budget. But to think about that, so it bombed. And Jamie Foxx, that was his first leading role. It was a bomb in the box office. And he turns around and he scores the biggest role of his life right after that. So that's just, that in itself is crazy. Also, what's crazy is him getting in a verbal spat that he put on this comedy album with LL Cool J is just hilarious. Right. Just hilarious.
Yeah, they had real life beef during the filming of that movie. They had real life beef.
Yes.
Yeah.
He questioned LL Cool J if he thought the movie was real, if it was reil life, if they were really playing football in real life. So that was hilarious. That little story, but good movie. I would definitely rewatch it. So, I mean, it's a true snub. Yeah, it's long. I would
it's
fall
long,
asleep, but
it's good.
but
But it's
I
entertaining.
put it on. Yes.
Yeah, and so that movie, it looks like critics gave it 52% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience gave it 73. So the audience
Okay.
liked it,
Yes.
liked it a little bit better than maybe some of the critics did. And that's usually kind of how it goes, right? Most of the time, the movies the critics love. I know for me, movies that critics love, I'm usually like, it's all right.
Like the wrestler. Like the
wrestler, exactly. And movies that they maybe don't like as much, it's like, oh man, this is really good. So Any Given Sunday, the snub of the tribe. Now I'm going to go to my snub. My snub, the movie that I picked for a snub is a 2006 film, probably a little more under the radar movie. It kind of gives you a little it probably gives you a Remember the Titans vibe just on the basketball side because of the time in which the movie is set. Because it's similar to Remember the Titans, because it's kind of in a segregated time in America. This movie is about the Texas Western College basketball team. It's the true story of Texas Western. The name of this movie is Glory Road. Glory Road is an excellent sports movie. And now you got this crazy look on your face. Now you said Jerry Maguire. Of course, Jerry Maguire had the big guns in it. Tom Cruise, yada, yada, yada. But the story of Texas Western College is a great story from a historical standpoint. They are the first college basketball team to start 5 African Americans in a NCAA championship basketball game. They play Kentucky for the national championship. Adolph Rupp, who is like a god in Kentucky. The arena's named after him. He's a legend, all of that stuff. He's the coach of Kentucky at the time. His star player is a guy by the name of Pat Riley. You may have heard of him. He now, obviously world famous basketball coach, now executive for the Miami Heat. He was actually a really good basketball player back in I guess this movie is set in I would imagine it's the 60s. It's the 1965, 1966 season. This is a true story. This team actually went 23-1 during the season. They play Kentucky, who's like, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're like the 2-time national champ. They were going for like 3 straight national or something crazy or something like that. But they win the game. They win the national championship. It's a great movie. It probably flies under most people's radar because it's not a big budget film. Really not any. John Voight, ironically, who was in Ali, plays Adolph Rupp in Glory Road. And so he has like a prosthetic nose and everything because Rupp had like a big nose. And so he's probably the most famous person in that movie. Derek Luke, if you guys are familiar with their actor Derek Luke, he played. What's the movie with Denzel Washington where Denzel, like the military movie? What is
Antoine Fisher?
Antoine Fisher, yes. So Derek Luke played Antoine Fisher. That's probably his biggest role in a movie. But Derek Luke's in the movie. The coach for the Texas Western team is played by John Lucas, if I'm not mistaken, is his name. If you saw his face, you would know what other movie. He's one of those guys where it's like, I can't think of what movies he's been in, but if I see his face, oh yeah, he's been in such and such and such and such. But the movie, 81% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 55% by the critics. So
you snuck that one in. You snuck that in.
Yeah. But hey, it's a good movie. It has a great story. You should see it, man. I take it by the way your facial expressions and the way you've been reacting. You've never seen this movie.
I have not, and I don't really like period movies, despite biopics excluded. I really don't like period pieces. Usually that is more to like something in the English or old slave movies, stuff like that. I just they
I'm
don't
not a
hold me.
huge fan
So
of them either. But sports movies I can do. Yeah. Oh, Tatiana Ali is also in this movie from Fresh Prince of
she's
Bel-Air.
alive.
But this movie was made like in 2006. But yeah, she's alive. I mean, she's like in our age bracket. She's not an old person. Yeah, but so Tatiana Ali, she plays Derek Luke's character's like love interest in the movie. So yeah.
Okay.
But listen, man, good movie. You should see it. Yeah, at least from the for the history of it all. It's a good movie with a great story. Glory Road is my snub. Even though Darius looks totally confused by it, but that's cool. That's cool.
I know we're about to get to the GOAT, but
yes.
I want to propose a question to you before we do.
Okay.
What is the highest grossing sport movie of all time?
Wow. Like just one movie?
One movie.
Okay, so not like I don't want to give away who our GOAT is, so I'm not gonna go there.
One movie, sir.
One movie, the highest grossing sports movie of all time. I don't know. Wow. Okay, can I get a clue like as to what sport the movie is about? Or would that give it away?
That would give it away.
Okay,
so here's my disclaimer. I personally would not necessarily classify it as a sport movie because I don't know how much of the actual sport is in the movie.
Okay, so that would take out what I was thinking. I was going to say Talladega Nights.
That's top 15. It did about 162 mil.
Okay.
So it's in the ballpark. This movie is a remake.
Friday Night Lights?
There's a lot of football in that movie, sir.
Oh, okay. The Longest Yard.
Also, a lot of football played in that movie as well, sir.
Yeah, okay, well, I give up, man. What is it? When you say a remake, I'm like, okay, I know The Longest Yard was a remake.
Yeah, and that's top 10 in the box office at 190 million.
Okay.
But the movie that they're saying is a sports movie and is the top earner with $359 million is the remake of The Karate Kid.
The Jaden Smith one?
Yes, sir. $359 million, sir, at the box office off of a $40 million budget. It was
no way. And
that
movie was not very good.
Well,
it wasn't.
I mean, it got a 66% by the critics. Yeah, so I thought that was crazy because I mean, it's a karate movie, but they don't do like, I don't remember like in the original Karate Kid, Daniel went to tournaments and he was fighting.
Right.
I saw the movie once, so I'm trying to remember, but I thought he was just getting beat up by bullies in China.
Yeah, it was something like that, and then he had like he may have competed in it. He may have competed in a tournament. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah,
nobody's rewatched that movie.
Yeah, I can't believe that. And I mean, yes, okay. I mean, they do karate at the Olympics, so I guess that technically makes it a sport. But wow, I'm surprised by that. Really surprised by that.
And I'll give you the runners up real quick. Not even close. It was 359 million, 309 million. Excuse me, Let me separate that. That's confusing. Karate Kid did 359 million. The next closest was 309 million, so 50 off, which is huge. That's a whole movie. The Blind Side came in at number 2 in the
great
box.
movie. Good movie.
Good movie.
Surprised I didn't get a lot of votes when we surveyed people. Yeah,
it's not one that I envision people rewatching a lot, so it could be easily forgotten.
But I'm a big Sandra Bullock fan too, so I dig Sandra Bullock, so
I'll just go to the number 3 movie real quick, Rocky 4, which was 300 million.
Rocky 4 did 300 million. That is a great segue because the GOAT, the greatest sports movie of all time, we've encompassed it into one franchise because it got the most love, whether it was part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 6, Rocky Balboa, Rocky Saves America. The GOAT, the greatest sports movie of all time, is Rocky. And listen, I agree 100%. It's number 1 on my list. One of the most compelling. Hey, acting may not be the greatest in the world, but the Rocky series, with the exception of 5 was just such an outlier. With the exception of even Rocky Balboa, when he's like old and he fights Antonio Tarver for the title, and he actually, hopefully, spoiler alert if you guys haven't seen Rocky Balboa. Have you seen Rocky Balboa, Darius?
Yes. Yep.
I was gonna say spoiler alert. He actually loses, which rarely happens in a Rocky movie. But even that one was pretty good. But Rocky, 94% Rotten Tomatoes rating, the original. 94%. Part 2, 71%. Part 3, 64%. They just keep getting worse. Part 4, 40%. And part 4 is probably my favorite one, up 9%. But Rocky Balboa, 77%. So that one, comes back up. And then, of course, it spawns the Creed series, things of that nature, which we won't even get into. Creed's Rotten Tomatoes rate, by the way, is 95%. And it's a good movie. But I'm really surprised. I think Creed got like maybe 2 votes in this whole thing. But anyway, but like you said, there's so many sports movies that are just so good. To try to put together a list of 5 is really, really hard. But Rocky, listen, number 1 on my personal list. The Tribe voted it number 1 as well. And therefore, it's number 1 overall. The original Rocky grossed $225 million, which for a movie that came out in 1976, that's very good. $225 million. What was Rocky's budget? The original Rocky's budget.
Ooh, I know it wasn't.
If we have,
yeah,
it 225 million, right? Yeah.
No, not the budget.
No,
the budget
listen,
wasn't.
Do you want to know?
$1 million. $1
Do you know
million.
what the budget was? $1 million. And I think I read somewhere that Sylvester Stallone may have put that money up on his own, like 1 million of his own dollars to make this movie, and it made $225 million. You talk about a return on investment. That is a return on investment for your behind right there. That is insane. If I'm not mistaken, Sylvester Stallone wrote the movie, right? He wrote it. Of course, he starred in it, and it was a hit. And it won it's the only movie on our list to win the Oscar for Best Film. Rocky won, the original Rocky won the Best Film Oscar, man. I don't think any of the other sports movies could top that.
No. In fact, it's very rare for them to win like best supporting, best picture. Only a handful, less than 10 movies in the history of the Oscars have won any of those big awards. Rocky was up there for best picture, best director, best film editing. But also 3 out of the 5, we don't count the 5th really, so 3 out of the 4 films are in the top 10 grossing of all time. And guess what the 11th film is? The 11th film is Rocky Rocky 2. So, 4 out of the top 11 films are all Rocky films. And Creed 2 is the 10th. So, the offspring. So it's just ridiculous the amount of money generated by these films. They are part of history. Philadelphia, if you think Philadelphia, you think Rocky, right? And that's ridiculous. Isn't that statue real? Am I drinking the Kool-Aid? Doesn't he have a real statue? This fictional character?
I don't think if you go to Philadelphia, you will see the Rocky statue. I don't think.
All right, we got to figure this out.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting? I watched it. I saw a movie trailer.
They took it down.
Movie trailer recently. So the movie the character Rocky is like loosely based on is actually a real person, and that person is actually has a biopic coming out. I saw the trailer for it. I can't think of the guy's name. I forget who's playing him, but in the trailer of the movie, he says, "You guys have probably heard of me. Sylvester Stallone plays my character in Rocky," and so it's an actual. So Sylvester Stallone's character is actually inspired by a real life person.
Chuck
Wepner. Chuck Wepner. Yep. Thank you. I couldn't remember his name. And so now there's a movie coming out about Chuck Wepner's life, like his real life. Because obviously they kind of took pieces of his life and made this movie, and then from it just spawned all these different sequels, which weren't a part of his life at all. But it just kind of grew legs. But like you said, I think Rocky deserves to be the GOAT because of its box office power. Like you said, the money that it made, the sequels that it spawned, the offspring of it being Creed, which both of the movies were solid. Both Creed movies were good. And it's just a great story, man. Like Rocky is the everyday working man. You can identify with him. You root for him every movie. Great, antagonist for him from Apollo Creed to Mr. T, to Ivan Drago. It was they might have not been the best acted movies in the world, but they darn sure were entertaining. And that's why, in my opinion, Rocky definitely deserves to be the GOAT, the greatest sports movie of all time. Well, once again, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to this exciting episode of the GOAT Debate podcast. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to check out future episodes of the GOAT Debate. Darius, let them they can download episodes of our podcast. They can listen like all over the place. I think we're almost on all the platforms where podcasts can be found. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely show us some love, if you will, on iTunes and all the major streaming platforms. Those 5 stars really matter. It helps us be searchable and be found by other listeners there. You know, we want the tribe to grow. So we got some fun things in store, and that, you know, to make that happen, we need a little bit of love. So on YouTube, if you can give us the thumbs up and you know, share on social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere, baby. We're everywhere.
Absolutely. And you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at GOAT_debate. Search the GOAT Debate on Facebook. You'll definitely find us there. Well, we're going to sign off for this edition of the GOAT Debate podcast. Again, where we debate who truly is the greatest of all time, or at least we like to think that we do. This is Meech. This is Darius signing off. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.